What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Fast Fridays here on the channel. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody who watched the first one of these videos and who commented and gave feedback on YouTube and Discord, whatever. Really appreciate it. And we're going to implement some of that feedback today, so make sure you stick around, watch the whole thing, and give me some comments below and let me know what you think. Also, like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done that. But what we're going to be doing today is, rather than trying to show you every single thing that happened in all of the games in this whole run, we're just going to show you the highlights. So we've got the whole draft for you for sure, but condensed, no breaks there. And then in the gameplay, we're just going to show some highlights of the games. So a little bit different than last time, and I think a way more enjoyable viewing experience. But you let me know, and I'll see you after the games. So the draft starts off with one of the more unexciting pack one pick ones we can see, and I think about taking Fear of Burning Alive for a long time before pivoting to Clockwork Percussionist last minute, just thinking that it's a 1-drop versus a 6-drop, first of all, and second of all, that I think Percussionist will probably be better in red black, red white, or even red green beats. If I end up in like red green mid range, or I guess maybe red blue with some Delirium stuff, Fear of Burning Alive might be better, but probably better to just start with the 1-drop here. And then another equally unexciting pack. I think you can make a case for, I don't know, a number of cards because it's pretty weak. Again, I went with Defiant Survivor and thinking about being Gruul beats, where I think Defiant Survivor is at its best. I almost get baited into taking Head Shredder, which is a pet card of mine, even though I know it's not very good, but I have a creature with Survivor. What a curve that is, huh? Defiant Survivor into Head Shredder. But I just elect to take, again, what I think is the best card out of the pack with Irreverent Gremlin and go down that path. And if I had taken the Head Shredder, I would have been really happy to pick up this Brood Spinner. Still pretty happy to pick up the Brood Spinner. It's easily the most powerful card we've seen the whole draft, and I'm happy to take it here. Back to our usual fare of shoddy packs. We grab a Wary Watchdog just to keep in the green space, and it's slightly aggressive, I guess, as a 2-drop, and can play with Delirium with Surveil. The unexciting packs continue with a Bashful Beastie, and then a Wickerfolk Thresher to make me feel a little bit better about things. And then a Cynical Loner, thinking a bit more about, maybe some Delirium space. Maybe we end up in Abzan, Reanimator, whatever. And then on the wheel, we grab a Moldering Gym, another Bashful Beastie, a Cryptid Inspector, a Slavering Branch Snapper, and a Bear Trap. So a pretty unexciting pack 1, hoping to find some power in pack 2. Find some power in some other colors. Split Up is, okay to great. And there's Popular Egotist for a sacrifice deck. I think red-green is our most likely home, so I grabbed the Wildfire Wickerfolk. Maybe thinking about being more beatdown, a little bit more mid-range, certainly a Delirium. Maybe we're going Jund. We'll figure it out. Threats around every corner definitely leaves us more mid-range, more open to splashing, more interested in manifesting Dread. Very happy to see that. Back to some unexciting picks. I think we just grab a Terramorphic Expanse. I like Expanse over Strangled Cemetery. 1, because we don't know we're splashing black, but we probably will. With threats around every corner, we'll be splashing off of basics. And Terramorphic Expanse gives us a way to get Delirium on our own terms. A bit of an interesting pick with Scorching Dragonfire versus Wickerfolk Thresher, but not that interesting because we don't have any removal at this point, and happy to grab the Dragonfire. Another threats around every corner, pick 5 is an awesome thing to see. Slam that in. Great to see Machete and Bashful Beastie in the pack as well. Hand That Feeds in our red-green Delirium space seems like a perfect pickup. And a lot of options here, Sporogenic Infection being the best card in the pack, but I don't think great to splash, and we don't have a lot of removal or like ways to abuse it, to sacrifice it. So I end up grabbing a Say Its Name, which I think is really good when you're trying to get Turbo Delirium, which we are. And then a pick 8 Drag to the Roots, almost certainly going to be splashing that off of our double threats. On the wheel, we get Razortrap Gorge versus Monstrous Emergence, and I'm just interested in grabbing a land here because I know I'm splashing a couple black cards and I know I'm going to make playables easily at this point, so I like grabbing that over the medium removal spell. An Impossible Inferno here is probably going to make the cut, and a Moldering Gym, a Bleeding Woods red-green duel is nice, a Bashful Beastie pick 13, and Violent Urge pick 14. Come on, pack 3 pick 1. Again, a lot of goodies for some other people with Entity Tracker and Sheltered by Ghosts. I definitely consider splashing the Entity Tracker, but our enchantment count is only at 4 with the double threats and the double gyms right now, and I don't even know if I'm running the gyms. So I'm just going to grab a Sad Terramorphic Expanse for similar reasons as grabbing the first one. Here we get some removal in the form of Betrayer's Bargain, which is awesome, and a plethora of green cards that might wheel, even that Thornspire Verge. Another land over a bunch of mediums. A Beastie Beatdown gives us synergistic removal, which is awesome. Ragged Playmate as a creature with types in the 2-drop slot over another handful of cards. Maybe I could see taking Say Its Name here. Pack 3, pick 6, we go hunting for gems with Marina Vendril. A Wildfire Wickerfolk pick 7, definitely means we were in the right space. And pick 8, we grab a Frantic Strength. On the wheel, we get a Horrid Vigor, a Greenhouse Rickety Gazebo, Cryptid Inspector, Haunted Screen, Say Its Name, and a Plains. Let's take a look at the final build. As we thought, we're splashing the Brood Spinner and the Drag to the roots, and we're going a bit more mid-range here, and I think the one mistake that I made with this build was putting Clockwork Percussionist in. I'm just such a fan of that card in so many decks, but without ways to sacrifice it other than the Betrayer's Bargain, or without ways to pump it like Turn Inside Out, I think it's probably not great here, and I should have been running a Frantic Strength. As you'll see, Trample on our big fatty Boom Booms would have been nice to have. I think that would have been a good thing for us to have in the deck. But as it stands, out of such a weak draft, I'm really happy with where we ended up. I think we got the most power that we could have, other than, you know, staying super open to blue and getting some Entity Tracker in our deck, that sort of thing. But I think this Jund mid-range deck has a chance, and we'll see how the games play out. All right, we're going to drop in late in the game here for game number 1 against a blue-red rooms opponent. And even though we're at 20 life, we are in a lot of trouble. They just unlocked a Misty Salon to have a 6/6 flyer, and next turn they can unlock Tunnel of Hate to give it double strike, which means we are on a 2-turn clock. Now, I wish I had done some things differently this game, but the crux of it, the thing I want to highlight, is that this turn I'm actually going to decide to attack all and try and get my opponent's blockers out of the way and life total as low as possible. I lead on threats around every corner. I think trying to hit one of our Wildfire Wickerfolks, which could then be flipped up and have haste and etc. We don't end up getting there with that, but sending with all 3 of these attackers I think puts our opponent in a little bit of a spot. I also wish I hadn't cast Say Its Name before this, because there's a chance they might have thought we had a trick and not blocked with their 6/6 if I hadn't done that. So I think definitely some mistakes on my part, and we'll see one more again as we get to the end of this game. So after casting Say Its Name, we get back a Bashful Beastie, we've threats around every corner, a Beastie into play, and now we're going to send with all 3 of these creatures. We draw into a Wildfire Wickerfolk, and we'll see how they block. These blocks make sense to me. They eat the Thresher, so we don't get any more card advantage. They don't want to give us a 2/2, so they'll let the Beastie through, and then we trade off our 4/2 with their 3/3. On their turn, they unfortunately have a 2-drop, which is sort of the perfect thing for them, that like they have an additional blocker, plus they get to unlock Tunnel of Hate with all of their mana, so that's pretty unlucky for us. They send in with the 12 damage in the air, and we draw a land for turn, unfortunately, and go to unlock our Wait Room, and we actually reveal the other. And so if just some slight things had happened differently, actually, if I had gotten back Clockwork Percussionist instead of the Bashful Beastie, I would have exactly lethal here. I mean, obviously that's a crazy sequence of things that could have happened, but interesting to note that, like, I even thought this at the time. I was like, am I ever really casting this Beastie? Is that how this game is going? And I should have gotten the hasty threat there just with my plan to push maximum damage. Because what I could have done was flipped up the Wildfire Wickerfolk here. It's a 7-power Trampler, attack with the 5/4, the 2/2, and be able to get in with the Percussionist for the final 8. But unfortunately, didn't do that. That's not how things worked out. I liked my aggressive line, but we end up falling to the Flyer and the double strike. All right, game number 2 here is going to have some misplays on the other side of the battlefield, unfortunately. We'll drop in here to turn 6, where we are taking our second chunk of 7 after our opponent played back-to-back Stay Hidden, Stay Silence on our creatures. On our turn, we unlock a Wait Room and get a 5/5, grow our Cryptid Inspector, and pass back to them. They play a Prop Room and Fear of Surveillance to double Eerie trigger on their 1/3 flyer, so I fall to 3. I was hoping my Brood Spinner would be able to bounce off of it, but no such luck. Plus, now everything has Vigilance thanks to Prop Room, a card I've basically never seen cast. On turn 8, I have to pass and crack the Brood Spinner, or I die to them just moving the Machete onto the 1/3 flyer. What actually happens is they flip up their manifest creature, and it's a Fear of Abduction. So I block sack and fall to 2, taking 1 from their flyer. I draw a Scorching Dragonfire, which gives me theoretically an attack with the 5/5 and the 3/4, as those are the only 2 creatures that can then finish off the Fear of Abduction with the Scorching Dragonfire. They make some really interesting blocks, and I actually elect to leave them the Fear of Abduction, thinking that maybe I can find some sort of massive attack down the road while I'm chumping with the 1/1 insects. I do chump a few times, and they crack a couple of Stay Hidden, Stay Silence to get the manifested creatures. On this turn, I'm sort of in desperation mode, and so I attack with Bashful Beastie, thinking they'll either chump or they'll try to eat it with the flyer, so I'll get to manifest and get a gremlin trigger. But then they confusingly quad block. I don't know what they were afraid of, but they quad block here, and I kill all 3 blockers that aren't the Fear of Abduction, and I get my gremlin trigger and manifest another Bashful Beastie. On end of turn, I flip up Bashful Beastie, draw and play Say Its Name, and get back Brood Spinner. I cast my Wicker Folk and attack, and they flash in Fear of Imposters. Weirdly, they chose to not counter either my Say Its Name or my Hasty Threat, but in any event, here we are. We get them to 2, we play a Brood Spinner, and I've got 2 creatures that can block their flyer and lethal on board, and they scoop it up. Alright, game 3 here, and our opponent has a crazy impressive start here with 2-drop into Enduring Vitality, into Manifest Dread, and Under the Skin on turn 4, which has me scared given my empty battlefield. Luckily, I draw Scorching Dragonfire to answer the Vitality cleanly and drop a Gremlin. I hope to stabilize with a 5/5 from Weight Room, but a Withering Torment and Derelict Attic puts them even farther ahead on board and resources. We land our second Threats Around Every Corner, and after killing their 4/4 with our bargain, we use Drag to kill their 5/5, and it's looking pretty good. Another top deck removal spell, and I get to flip my Survivor to keep manifesting and pulling all the lands out of my deck. We have no more basics left, and next turn we deploy 2 more massive threats. Our opponent's last gasp is a Miasma Demon that does manage to kill 2 of our creatures, but leaves them empty-handed and dead on board. Another win. In game 4, we're actually playing against a member of the Lords of Limited Discord, and our opening hand is beautiful. It looks like they might just be color screwed, but they have the perfect answer to our fast start with a Seized from Slumber. Unfortunately, we never managed to hit a 3rd land drop, and after they deploy back-to-back Midnight Mayhem, we scoop it up. 2-2. Game 5 looks a little dicey as we land a couple Threats Around Every Corner, the first being answered by Trapped in the Screen, but are flooding out pretty hard against an opponent stuck on 4 lands. They land a Fear of Failed Tests and a Wandering Rescuer, and it's looking harder and harder for our ground forces to be able to push through. We chump with the Percussionist and block sack with our Spider, and with the 5/1/1 flyers in the air, we've got our opponent on a 2-turn clock. They equip Glimmerlight and attack with Fear of Failed Tests, and the only thing I can think of them having is Split Up. So I elect to block with my 3/4 in case they do have a Wrath. I can still win with my Menace creature. After a long pause, they concede and we get the W. 3-2. Game 6 starts off with a very promising hand, but a turn 2 Gremlin Tamer just goes absolutely nuts for my opponent when I don't have any removal. Just look at this board on turn 6. It doesn't get much better as Silent Hall Creeper starts turning sideways, but this game ends in the most spectacular fashion. After making a few more Gremlins, they land Porcelain Gallery with 15 creatures in play. We let them have their fun and die at minus 228, ending our run at 3-3. Hard to be mad about going out like that, right? I mean, if we're going to lose, we're going to lose like that. The deck was underpowered, right? We didn't have any bomb rares or anything, just a lot of like strong uncommons, some good synergy, but really couldn't compete with some of those. Certainly just getting stuck on land, some of those draws, some of our own misplays, and some of those busted cards from our opponent. But all in all, a pretty good run, and I'm still loving Duskmourn. Might be my GOAT set. Let me know in the comments below what you think, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content.